Lead meeting.
Good evening, everybody. This is Alex Ditton. I'm with Underground Noise. I'm here with Matt Mcgachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy. This is Webisode number 21. Hit that subscribe button. Hit up Matt wherever you can find him. How's it going today, Matt?
I'm doing good, Alex. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be with you tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for a portion of your time.
No stress whatsoever. I love it.
Right on. First off, I would like to ask you, who are your musical influences?
Oh, I'm such a vast, I fell into becoming a death metal vocalist. I got into death metal super late. I was in my early 20s, honestly, when I really started listening to more extreme music. Before that, I grew up really as a nu metal child. My dad was an avid rock fan. And I grew up listening to rock and early metal stuff, 80s metal stuff in the car with him. That was really the soundtrack of my youth, which is a question I always ask on my podcast, Vox Hops, is what the person's parents listen to. So from there, I just totally rebelled against my father's musical choices. So anything that had a guitar solo in it, I thought was just lame. I had to get as far away from it as possible. And at that time, nu metal was kicking off, Korn, and they had no solos. It was just all about the groove and the intensity, the emotion, and that really spoke to me, being a 16-year-old kid at the time. Marilyn Manson, Korn. It just kept getting heavier and more extreme with the Slipknot, and then heavier and heavier and heavier until one day, I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I picked it up, and I'm happy I did. Is that I picked up Cannibal Corpse's Kill album, and it had the most simplest artwork of all the Cannibal Corpse releases, and for some reason it just captivated me, and I listened to it and I was just immediately blown away. And George's voice was just so intense, and I was screaming at the time, but I was in a metalcore band, very inspired by Killswitch Engage and In Flames, and this really prompted me to try to do some more extreme gutturals in 3 Mile Scream, which was the name of my band before Cryptopsy. And from there, I just stumbled into the rabbit hole of just more and more extreme stuff. So there's George, there's Travis. I remember asking Christian Donaldson, the guitarist of Cryptopsy, before I think we were writing the self-titled Cryptopsy album, or it was in between The Unspoken King and the self-titled album. I was like, what vocalist should I be listening to? Who should I explore to try to better myself? Who should I be listening to? And he said Cattle Decapitation. And I also went and I picked up The Harvest Floor, and I remember being blown away by Travis's vocals on that. And then I picked up at that same CD buying spree, I picked up Decapitated's Nihility, I think it's called, Nihility, and that just also blew my mind. It was more of a similar one-tone voice, but I really enjoyed it, and it just kept going from there, just more and more extreme. Luckily, I had the chance to tour with both Travis and George, and to watch them play every night. That was awesome. And I'm a guy that likes to ask vocalist questions of how they do stuff, and that's just. Influences are all over the place, and I listen to a lot of extreme music now, but I still also like really zen stuff at the same time. I was listening to the new Mono CD that came out last week, which is a post-rock band from Japan that I absolutely love. So I'm all over the place, much like my craft beer influences and tastes. Love it.
Very cool. Very cool. Would you like to tell me more about your beer?
Sure. This is a really cool beer, actually, because it's Cryptopsy's beer. Last June, for my podcast Vox Hops, I released 22 collaborative brews with metal breweries and Vox Hops alumni, which are past guests of the podcast. So I teamed up breweries and bands that live in the same area, so that the band could be a part of everything from A to Z, choosing the beer, the style of beer, what hops are going into it, being there on brew day, being there on canning day. If they could go on a release party day. And it was amazing. I was so happy that I got this done. This is Cryptopsy's collab with Kanawaki Brewing Company. This is the second beer that we have with them. The first beer is called Cryptopsy. And it's just a crispy lager with a bunch of mosaic hops in it. This one is a cold haze warm blood. It's a double New England IPA with blood orange. The name obviously comes from Cold Hate Warm Blood. Cryptopsy, we spend a lot of our time on tour coming up with stupid beer names. So this is one that, has been kicking around in my phone notebook, my notepad of my phone for many, many years. And I'm happy that Drew, their head brewer, is always crazy enough to accept my challenges. And he'd never worked with blood orange before in a hazy IPA, and he killed it. It's really, really fantastic.
Oh, it looks like grapefruit juice.
Mm-hmm. Except it's 8.5%. It's delicious.
It does look pretty tasty.
It's juicy. It's got like a astringency from the blood orange. Really, really awesome. And he's going to brew it again because he still has some labels kicking around. So that makes me happy.
That does sound good. How did you hear about joining Cryptopsy?
That was through Chris Donaldson. Chris is a producer, one of the most underrated, best producers in the industry right now. He's worked with amazing bands such as Ingested, Shadow of Intent, Despised Icon, Vulvodynia, that record that just dropped that everyone's freaking out about. Chris worked on that. He just loves showing off his mixes. So that's really how I got into Cryptopsy. So he was showing off the new 3 Mile Scream record, which he produced back in 2007 or 2006 to the band as they were going on a trip to play a gig in Toronto. And Flo was in this, and a few of the other guys too wanted to expand into clean vocals in Cryptopsy, and that was something that I had a strength of in with 3 Mile Scream. I did a lot of clean vocals, and he got interested, piqued his interest. They sent me a track. I had to go in and track vocals. The song is The Plagued, the one what you hear on the Unspoken King is my tryout track. We didn't retrack it, that's it. So I got the gig. There was me and another dude, and I got the gig. Notoriously, the Unspoken King came out to horrible reviews, and everyone hated it, and we got death threats and shit like that happens. And I wasn't ready to be Cryptopsy's vocalist at the time. I was Matt from 3 Mile Scream that was trying to be as heavy and as extreme as I could be at the time, but I needed time to evolve. I wasn't aware of what Cryptopsy's vocalist needed. The band was in a transition period, and anything that I did lay down, they enjoyed, and it's what they wanted. And they wanted the clean vocals. It's not something that I pushed upon them. I didn't write any riffs on the record. I showed up, everything was done, and I just did my part. So and that's how I've been in Cryptopsy. And the longest standing Cryptopsy vocalist. And I'm still called the new vocalist, and I always will be.
That sounds great. I'd like to ask you, how do you keep your energy level up while you're doing your vocals and also while you're on tour?
Lots of rest. I sleep a lot on tour. Much better than I sleep at home, honestly. Most of the time, unless we're flying, doing one of those airplane tours where it's lots of fun and we see lots of amazing places, but we don't get to sleep on those ones. I try to rest a lot. I rest my voice a lot. It's all about focus and putting, you have to feel your body. You have to know how much time, exertion that you have to put out to perform a live Cryptopsy set it's a lot. So I have to save some energy, but I also work out a lot on tour. I like to walk a lot on tour. It's just a balance of everything, and trying to stay healthy, trying to eat good food, clean food, not too greasy, not too disgusting, and exploring a bunch of microbreweries as I'm out there is typically where you can find me.
That's awesome. Where has been your favorite place to perform live so far?
I really like playing in Japan. I think it's also like the last tour that we did. We played in Korea after that, which was also awesome. But that show in Japan was probably one of my favorite, best Cryptopsy gigs we've ever done. It was just incredible. The energy from the crowd, me jumping into the crowd, knowing that they're going to catch me. It was amazing, and I can't wait to get back there. It was funnily enough, there was a lady from my work that was there visiting her family, and she's extremely not metal, and I see her as like a very fragile person. She was there with her 15, 14-year-old daughter, and the show was sold out, and I was supposed to meet her beforehand and place her backstage or side stage so that I knew she was safe, but she was late, and I spent my whole show worrying about my coworker, whose name is May, worrying about her, that she was going to get hurt at this show. Luckily, everything was fine. She was in the back, and she had a blast, and she still talks about it to this day, which is funny.
Have you ever had any moments while you're on stage that have been either life-threatening or embarrassing, or while on the road?
There is a time in Barcelona that I thought it was a fart, that it was more, but it was just a little bit. And nobody else really realized, I don't think. That was a long time ago. I remember that.
What is your favorite thing about being a vocalist?
I don't have much gear. It's which it works out well, because then we don't necessarily need another roadie, because I can help Flo build his kit. I can set up the merch. I'm a man. I like to stay busy. I don't like not doing anything. I'm always up to something. As you can see with the podcast, I've kept myself very busy during the pandemic, releasing multiple episodes a week instead of just, waiting to get back on the road. I decided to really push my energy into the podcast so I can connect with a bunch of people. Being a vocalist is awesome. Connecting with the fans, being right in the front, whipping them in the face with my hair. It's awesome. I'm looking forward to getting back to it.
Do you have any siblings or any children that are into metal as much as you are?
Yeah, my kids are really into metal. Really, really into metal. My son is really into. We have a ukulele here. This is the new anecdote. We have like a little ukulele, the classic Mahalo. I think that's what they're called, ukuleles. And he really wants a guitar with a pointy headstock, which I think is a step in the right direction.
That sounds great. While you were growing up, Matt, what was the first instrument that you played?
I was always a singer. I always wanted to sing. The car with my dad, I would just imagine being on stage. We just listened to so much music together, Guns N' Roses and Journey and Queen. And I have this like vivid memory. I was probably in grade 6, summer of grade 6, and we were driving to Maine, Portland, Maine, to take a ferry up to Nova Scotia so we could go explore Nova Scotia. And I was listening to Bohemian Rhapsody, and that section there with the whole piano at the beginning, and then he goes, "Oh me." I just like totally vividly imagined myself coming out onto the stage and singing that little line there. And I was always wanted to be a singer. I love it. Loved it then, love it now. I do a lot more gutturals now than clean vocals, but I really like singing clean vocals. There's no place for it in Cryptopsy, and I'll never bring it back there, but I got like an itch that I need to scratch when it comes to clean vocals. That part of my life is not over. I had a band going for a while called The Era Of, which it was about 10 years ago right now. Actually, we dropped an album which I still listen to, and I think is very not underrated, because nobody knows about it. It's quite good. It's not prog rock. It's like rock music with emotion, and there's very minimal screaming on it. It's all clean vocals. I miss singing, so that's definitely something that's going to come up in the next few months if I can, if that 8th day in the week gets added finally, and we have that extra 24 hours each week to do something just extra and special. That's what I would do.
How would you say that your music is different from other bands that are already out there?
I think Cryptopsy has always been very innovative. They always push the boundaries on everything all the time. I've said this in a lot of interviews recently, but they could have just made another None So Vile. A lot of bands that found success, I won't name names, but people will make their own assumptions of who I'm talking about, just made the same records over and over again. And their fan base was happy with that. and the musicians were comfortable doing that, and the band just got bigger and bigger doing albums such as that. Cryptopsy could have just done that. They could have just kept doing None So Vile-esque albums, because it's amazing. It's a great, great album, and the fans love it. But they didn't. They went and made Whisper Supremacy, which is a far more technical, complex, almost like disturbing and hard to listen to album, and it takes a few listens to have to digest it, versus None So Vile, which is a bit more easy to listen to. It's still very complex, but compared to the technicality of what went on with Whisper Supremacy, it's not there. And then You'll Beg, they pushed the boundaries again. Once Was Not, they went a little bit more weird, brought back Lord Worm, and then The Unspoken King, a bunch of clean vocals and extreme metal. Everyone was like, what is this shit? Why is he singing? Why is he doing this? And now if you listen to 50 to 60% of the popular bands that are going on right now in the extreme metal scene, they all have clean vocals. Cryptopsy has always been very innovative, always doing something different, always way ahead of their time. And we're trying to keep doing that with the Book of Suffering EPs, which we dropped. We dropped 2 of them so far, and we tried to find the best world of Cryptopsy and put all those pieces that we love and be something that we're proud of as well, and something that we want to listen to as well too.
That's really cool. I've got a copy of And Then You'll Beg. That's one of my favorite albums by far.
Oh yeah, it's so complex. It's like listening to the whole thing from front to back is exhausting.
Well, it can be.
There's just so much going on.
That was the first album that I ever bought by Cryptopsy. I was really blown away by it.
I love it.
It's definitely an excellent album, worth headbanging to for sure.
Oh yeah,
like nonstop.
Yeah, it's a killer, and it just had its anniversary recently, and there was an awesome article that came out via. Oh, I should remember this. There was an awesome article that was written where there's a bunch of interviews with members that were there, and they had other artists reflect upon And Then You'll Beg and what it meant to them. It's a great article. I should remember what it was, but I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Would you like to tell me a little bit more about Vox Hops Podcast? How did you start that?
Sure. Vox Hops started in 2018. Since then, I've released over 290 episodes. It started for the love of having conversations with fellow metal musicians. On tour, I would always be that guy that would ask deeper questions. We'd be on the tour bus, and everyone would be partying, and here I'd be picking the singer's brain or wanting to know about someone's youth and getting to really know people. But it's hard to do that on tour. It's loud, and it's strange. I stayed home for a year with my daughter on a sabbatical in 2017 into 2018, and I started listening to a lot of podcasts while I was taking care of her, and I just love the medium. I love the platform. I fell in love with Jamie Jasta's show, the X-Men with Doc Coyle, Off Camera with Sam Jones. I really enjoyed his interview approach, the way that he was very well researched. But what I really enjoyed about him was that he actually listened. A lot of podcasters, no disrespect to anyone out there, they don't listen. They talk the whole time. They're the personality, and their guests are just there to add flavor. I wanted something like that. I wanted to have conversations where I'm listening and spreading, digging deeper into each guest to get to know them, to get behind that persona. So in the summer of 2018, I set up 10 interviews, and I had a conversation with Danny Marino from The Agonist, was my first guest. And once I got my 10 interviews, I launched in October of 2018, and I haven't stopped since then. So podcast is doing really well. It's something that it's a huge passion of mine. It takes up a lot of my time, but I love it. I love it so much. I love having conversations with people. I love sharing those conversations and having like a structured conversation where I know where the conversation is going to go, and I have to cover certain things, and I know what I want to cover. When I finish an interview, I always feel amazing. So it's still a huge passion of mine, and I'm looking, episode 300 coming up soon, and there's no end in sight.
I would like to ask you this: for those who are starting out as vocalists, what type of microphone would you suggest using? For myself personally, I use a Shure SM58 legendary vocal mic.
Yeah, that's a great way to start right there. It's indestructible. Yeah, it's, you can bash it and smash it and spit on it and, do all kinds of horrible things to it, as Gigi Allen would have. And it's a perfect first microphone. But I personally enjoy using a Sennheiser E935, I think it is, or E835. I can't remember. I was given it and I've been using it since then. It's become my podcast microphone because Vox and Hops is always supposed to be backstage in a tour bus. So I needed something like mobile, something small, something that just works. So I used my stage mic for the longest time until like 2 weeks ago. I bought a new one. And I love the Sennheiser for Vox and Hops interviews, especially if it's like in a noisy atmosphere. The Sennheiser won't pick up as much as the ambient room sound versus a Shure. A Shure will pick up all the music and people talking because of the way that the microphone is designed. But I absolutely love my Sennheiser. I've been having a great time with it.
I'll have to check those out.
And they're not that much more expensive. I think it's like $20-$30 more than a Shure. And it's
Not bad at all.
No, Shures are indestructible. That's you have to really, really, really bash them if you want to make an end to a Shure.
Well, let's hope it doesn't come down to that. So good answer. I like that one. If you could bring back a dead musician, or say maybe two, who would you bring back and why?
That's a good question. That's hard. Yeah, there's so many good ones, right? Going back to my youth, to watch Freddie Mercury in the flesh would be amazing. Just a phenomenal voice. And Chuck from Death would be, who knows what he'd be doing now, with the progression that he was doing, the music just getting more and more evolved. To imagine him now with another 20 plus years of exploration of his musical genius, that would really excite me.
Very cool. Well, I can't think of anything really else to ask you, Matt. Do you have any last underground noise?
No, thank you for having me. It was great. Everyone here, send lots of love. Subscribe to that Underground Noise so that you don't miss any of his new episodes coming up. And you can also check out Vox and Hops. I put out typically one episode a week. I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk about their life, music, and craft beer, of course. If you ever imagine sneaking backstage and drinking a beer with one of your favorite rock stars, then Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. Check it out on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And everything will be there for you to find. Alex, thank you so much. It was great.
Matt, thank you as well. Cheers, bro.
Cheers to you.